Oh, God. Yo, welcome to Sebitech, or welcome back. Today we're going to be putting some of these and some of these into this. Very proud thank you to our sponsor today, my grandma. I could not have done this without her. Okay, first, let's go over the components, which ended up surpassing my budget by about 280%. As in, I didn't really have a budget. Well, you can probably guess what case we're going to be using from the title and thumbnail. This stunning and heavy piece of CNC'd aluminum is the KBD Fans Tofu 65 in white. It's got a gorgeous weighted brass underside, which contributes to the case's minimal yet unique design. The white finish is super clean with no blemishes anywhere, and it has a 7-degree typing angle. It's really a solid, clean-looking case, and I'm really happy I went with it for my first custom. The PCB we're using is the DZ65 RGB. It's 5-pin hot swap, and I didn't want to have to deal with soldering or not really having the option to replace switches for my first build. RGB was not a priority for this build, but this was the only hot swap 65% I could find, and having the option is welcome. We also have a brass plate because apparently it's the best sounding. Also, it matches the bottom of the case. And it was the most expensive. Moving on, I chose the infamous Novel Keys creams, or NK creams for short, as our switch. No, I did not choose these because of Tofu. I just went through a ton of sound tests on YouTube, and these sounded much creamier than the rest. The keycap set we'll be placing on top of everything else is EnjoyPBT's simple white set, which I'll show here on the Apex Pro. It's simple, white, and has subtle but fun yellow or pink accents. The keys are nice and thick, and overall it seems like a great value set for under $90 US. Oh, I forgot about the stabilizers. Per suggestion on my TikTok, where I post daily tech content that you may want to check out, I got the Durock V2 Stabs in Smoky Clear. I have no clue what the difference between smoky plastic and clear plastic is, but the name sounded cooler. I thought I'd try these KBD Fans pre-cut stabilizer stickers, which will hopefully make for a precise alternative to Band-Aid modding. I threw in some Deskeys switch films too, which supposedly aid in switch stability and acoustics. I got these little inner spacebar foam stickers too, which I kind of forgot to use, but they're there, maybe for another video. So that's almost every part of the build. Just gonna get this stuff out of the way. Okay, let's check out our tools real quick, and then we can get into the assembly process. There's this alien-looking switch stem holder from Divinikey, a generic metal switch opener from Amazon, and some small watercolor brushes for lubing. There's also this switch keycap 2-in-1 puller I also got off of Amazon in case we end up with any bent pins. Foreshadowing. And now for the fun part. Hey, I thought that was cool. I'm just gonna go ahead and pick these up, and then we can get to the lubing process. We're gonna be using 4 separate bowls to organize the individual components of each switch. Cracking a switch open, which by the way is extremely satisfying, we find the stem and the inner spring, which are held in place by the top and bottom housings. Let's take these over to my desk. Here, we'll disassemble all 70 switches, putting each part into a bowl. This process was actually a lot less tedious than I anticipated. The first time opening a switch was the best, but the next 69 times were pretty good too. Ooh, damn, that never gets old. Now that all our switches are disassembled, we can get to slathering all our parts in lube. I started lubing each switch with the bottom housing, without a real method at first. I got all the main contact points, making sure there were no obvious globs or any unequal distribution. For the stems, I covered all the sides with a light coat of Krytox and then engulfed the shaft in the middle with the lube-covered bristles. For the top housings, I smeared Krytox on all 4 inner walls, but in hindsight, I'm pretty sure you only need to do the 3 sides that aren't rounded, at least for NK creams. I didn't want to spend a ton of extra time hand lubing each and every spring, so I went ahead and bag lubed them. With the springs and some lube in a Ziploc and a few minutes of vigorous back and forth motion, we've successfully fully lubed a single switch. As a beginner, putting the now lubed parts back together is probably the most difficult part, but that isn't saying much. Just some aligning and a click, and it's ready to go. Now, I managed to make the relatively easy task of lubing and reassembling switches significantly more time consuming with these. These are the Deskeys switch films. Basically, they go between the top and bottom housing of a switch and make it more consistent. As I was filming the lubing process, I actually got a comment on TikTok informing me that filming creams in particular is completely useless, but by then I had already filmed quite a few, so I ended up filming any one of them anyway. Let's just call it part of the learning experience. By the way, if it's your first time filming switches, make sure to orient it so that the copper leaf in the switch goes into the larger side of the film. Also make sure the retention legs are on the sides are clipped onto the bottom housing if you're using MX style switches. The difference is minimal, but it's there. Anyways, lubing and filming took me many hours altogether, so let's skip to the future one. I'm on my 34th switch. I've been doing this for more than an hour by now, and I've kind of created a groove. It's like a couple strokes on each side of the bottom housing where the switch goes down, and then the inner cylinder thing. You get the point. Next up, we have the PCB. The PCB and the stabilizers are pretty much the same step because they both go on before the plate. I ended up with an extra set of Durock V2s, and we also have our stickers. Alright, we're back at the desk, and since our switches are all assembled already, we don't really need these bowls anymore, so I'm just going to move these to the side, and we will put our switches into this one, which will free up space, obviously. Okay, our first step in order to get to the stabilizers is to install these stickers. These are the stabilizer stickers, as opposed to Band-Aids. So this material is kind of weird, it's kind of hard to get off this, thing. Here's a much better view of the sticker and me making sure that it's fully flush against the PCB without any air bubbles or anything. So after time-lapsing through these last couple stickers, we'll get to the part where I trimmed off some of the excess on the sides using this side cutter. Being careful not to damage the PCB, I just trimmed off this little bit. I don't think it really matters, but just for that clean look. Here's some footage of the same exact thing, except in macro. Because, macro. Alright, taking out our 6.25U stabilizer, we have some really nice looking parts. We've got our gold-plated wire, the stem, the housing, and some screws and washers. In my hand, these feel like really quality pieces. While I was filming, at the very last minute, I decided to grab a Band-Aid from the shelf and try my hand at holy modding. While my attempt didn't really accomplish what I was going for, the gist is that you cut out these thin strips of Band-Aid that fit into the housing of the stabilizer, and then it closes the gap between the wire and the stem, sort of. It's a little hard to explain, I'll put this diagram up. Anyway, I pressed it firmly into place using the wire in both the top section and the bottom section of the housing, and I was already pretty satisfied with myself once I had 2 done. Once I had wholly modded all 8 stems, it was time to bust out the Krytox, and I considered just dipping the wire directly in, but I realized that probably wasn't that good of an idea. So with the brush, I took some Krytox and I applied a pretty generous coat to the 90-degree angle on the wire. Once the wire was done, I lubed all 4 sides of the stem, including the inside because that's where the wire makes contact. And I also made sure to do a thorough job of the inside of the housing for maximum smoothness. With the wire clipped into both sides of the stabilizer, both housings, we have a fully assembled spacebar stabilizer. I actually really enjoyed this part with the exception of holy modding. In order to install the little screws, because these are screw-in stabs, in case I didn't mention that, I used the iFixit toolkit. No, this is not sponsored. I wish it was. But this, I think they were pH 0, so really tiny, and I don't think this bit was magnetic, so it was kind of difficult. Nonetheless, on like the 4th try, I managed to get 1 screw in with a washer. So yeah, that's how you screw in a screw-in stab. Pretty cool. Now it seemed wise before assembling every other part to test out the stabilizer, so we're going to do that with the spacebar here. It actually sounded a little inconsistent from edge to edge, so I went ahead and moved the wire around a little, and it seemed to fix the inconsistency. Here's a quick sound test of the spacebar with the PCB in the case. Of course, it's not screwed in yet, so... So I went ahead and finished lubing and tuning all of the stabilizers, and after that I went and gave all of them a quick test just before installing the plate. So the spacebar needs work, but in the meantime, let's go to the next step. Okay guys, we're almost there. We are on to the plate and very soon the switch installation to the PCB. So I was taking off these keycaps from the test, and then all of a sudden, you see that? That's a fly. For quite a while, I didn't actually notice, and I just kept like removing the switches and the keycaps. He was just chilling there. I don't know how he didn't get scared of my hand all these times. So I tried to like shoo him away with my hand, but he didn't go, so I used the spacebar. Yeah, cool story. Alright, let's let flygons be bygones and put in some switches. Alright, this is a bit of an awkward cut, but I tried to do this whole foam thing, so I already had the case on the backdrop, and anyway, this is me just installing the PCB. So, I did not realize this while building, but you can actually screw the PCB in like through the plate, so you don't have to screw it on beforehand. Okay, let's move this away for a second, because it's time for the plate. Okay, so we're going to be taking everything out of this bowl and putting it onto this. Actually, before we stuff all these spaces with switches, we're just going to do the 4 corners and one in the middle so that we can attach it to the PCB first. It's important to make sure that you're aligning the switches with the PCB because some of the pins are flipped. With those switches on, we can now attach it to the PCB. So, with 2 very satisfying clicks, our plate is successfully mounted and we can start jamming this thing with switches. Of course I forgot like 3 PCB screws. I don't know about you, but this thing looks pretty sick without keycaps. Just having a little fun. Okay, so we are back to the desk once again, and oh, that is messy. Okay, let's get all of this stuff out of the way, and then we can take the keycaps off of the Apex Pro, and we can put them onto our Tofu build. Yeah, okay, that looks better. And with the magic of editing... Damn. Before we flip this thing over and put on the keycaps, let's just throw on these rubber feet that come with the case. And with one last time-lapsey sort of thing, we are just going to put on all of these keycaps. Honestly, I'm really happy with how this turned out. It's been really fun. So let's go to the sound test right after this. I'm just going to take this over to our backdrop because it looks cooler, and we'll get on some epic lighting. And for the moment of truth that we've all been waiting for, the sound test. Like butter. But that's not where our journey ends, because now we have to actually test the keyboard. So I'm going to use this crappy white cable that I had lying around. By the way, the RGB looks great. It's really vibrant. I've realized by now that there's actually a much better way to do this, but I just pulled up a Google Doc and started typing, and I realized that neither the Shift nor the M key worked. The video is getting kinda long, but I quickly diagnosed it to be a bent pin problem, and I was correct. Both of them, they had the copper pin was bent, so I just took some tweezers, straightened it out, and made sure that it went into the pin slot on the PCB properly. Thankfully, those 2 switches ended up working. So yeah, pretty cool. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching the build. I really had a lot of fun doing this. It took a lot of time, but I did it in the end. If you did enjoy the video at any point, like and subscribe, of course. It helps me keep doing videos, and I know I haven't been too consistent, but it's just been, I've had a lot of school stuff to do, and I've been working on my TikTok, which you should go check out, link in the description. You should also check out my Discord, which I'll link in the description. So there's that, and also if I had to improve a couple things, first of all, I'd add case foam, because there's kind of a hollowness, especially with the space bar. I think foam in the case would really help. I'd also O-ring mount the PCB, where you basically put these rubber washers between the screws in the PCB and between the PCB and the standoffs on the case, which would, I think, help with consistency. Keys aren't very consistent. I don't know if that has to do with how I lubed them or what. I'd also break in the creams a little more, I guess that's just general use, so hopefully that'll happen over time and they'll sound a little bit better, a little bit smoother. Other than that, oh, custom cable. I would definitely get a custom cable because this white one is like not really cutting it. It sucks. So yeah, this has been really fun project. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next tech video. Peace.